what is your name?
Roger Allen Cropp?
Okay, Alan.
Yes.
What branch of the service did you serve in?
The Air Force.
And how old are you?
71. I'll be
Okay.
72 in November.
When?
November, next month.
Oh, okay. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
And what were you doing prior to going into the service?
Prior to going into service, I just got out of school and I worked as a stock clerk in a grocery store.
Where was that?
Uniontown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. All right. What year did you go in the military?
1970.
1970. And how long were you in?
3 years and 7 months.
Right. Okay. All right. And so you said Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Right. That's where you enlisted?
Correct.
Why did you choose that branch of the service, the United States Air Force?
Well, I remember they started the draft that year because of the Vietnam War, and they just started it, and my number was number 9. That's the only thing I ever won.
Right.
So I decided to jump into the Air Force because I knew Army was going to go directly to Vietnam. So I signed up took the test, and I was accepted, and they asked me what I wanted to do. I said, what can I do? They said, whatever you want to do. I said, I want to get into electronics. So that's where I decided to go into that, and I had no idea what I was going to be doing in the electronics until I came out of basic training. So when I came out of basic training, they said, you're going to Biloxi, Mississippi, which I never traveled out of Pennsylvania my entire life because of our family and what have you.
Right.
And so here I was on my way. My dad took me to the bus station in Uniontown, and I got on the bus and went down to Pittsburgh, jumped on an airplane, and flew straight down to Lackland Air Force Base in Mississippi. And
Lackland's in Texas.
Lackland, right. I skipped to Biloxi, Mississippi already. Then I went to Lackland, Texas, and that's where I spent, I think it was about 8 or 10 weeks in basic training. Basic training wasn't that long, but I had to wait until they had room to fit us in.
Okay.
So, then after I got out of there, they came and told me I was going to Biloxi, Mississippi, electronics school.
Right. How long was that?
That was almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand why it was a year, but it was one of the most extensive electronic schools there was. And it being that I was in electronic countermeasures, which was radar jamming and you name it, whatever they could do to try to find us. We did something to keep them from finding us.
So you served as a deterrent.
Yes.
Great. Good. All right, and so you were there for a year.
Yes.
All right, so up to that point, training-wise, basic training and tech school, how did you get along with your instructors and your peers?
Oh, just fine. Not a problem. Actually, I was a dorm guard for our community, and I won the cleanest barracks like 3 months in a row because I had everybody together, and we had like little parties in the barracks, and we got to play with water and what have you, and they cleaned the place out immaculate. The only time I lost was the guy took the filter off the back of the water fountain and found a piece of fuzz in the back of the water fountain. We lost.
Wow. Got you.
So,
okay. All right, so throughout your basic training and your tech school tour, were there any casualties? Anybody get hurt?
not in school. Well, we did have one guy. He had epileptic seizure in the barracks, and he got a military discharge. So that's all that I can remember.
Right. Okay. So where did you go after tech school?
Went straight to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio.
Right. How long was that tour?
I thought I was going to be there forever because I was there almost like a year and something. I can't remember, a little bit longer than a year. And I thought, wow, it's almost I wasn't going to have enough time to go overseas for a year because that's the tour duty was 1 year at the time. And here they sent me to Guam. Okay, it was called Bullet Shot and they sent me over there as fast as I could get there for 3 months. And I thought it was going to be 6 months, but I got a notice. Actually, I was in the shower, taking a shower, and my buddy comes walking past from Wright-Patterson. He has this the big muckaluk hats. And it was in Guam, you don't need any type of hat like that. And I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm here to replace you. You have to get back to the Wright-Patterson, and you're going to Thailand for a year. I said, wow. And he says, you're not going anywhere. You got to get going. And I was out on a plane probably the next day or two. I was back to Wright-Patterson, had to get everything ready, back over to Thailand for a year. And
Where in Thailand were you?
in Royal Cropp Air Force Base. It was close to Cambodia.
What were you getting ready to say before I interrupted you? I'm sorry.
I forgot.
Okay. I apologize. Okay. So anyway, you got yourself squared away, and got on a. What did you fly over there on?
Actually, I flew from Wright-Patterson. I think it was in a KC-135 over to Guam or over to California. I can't remember the Air Force base. And when we were, yes, and I flew over there in a KC-135, which is an in-flight refueling tanker. And it was a pretty interesting flight. And the next flight that I got from California to overseas, that was where we had a little bit of a problem. It was another KC-135, but somebody decided to fill what seats weren't available. They put in MD3 units, which were aircraft power units. They ran on gasoline, and somebody thought the bright idea. I think we had 12 of them inside the fuselage, and they decided to fill them all up with gas. So when they landed, we could use them right away.
Right.
When we were on our descent, we were coming down. All the gas started squirting out of all the gas tanks, all over us, all over the inside. And inside the KC-135 is wood floor. So they told us, do not move.
My God.
We took anything that we could find, clothes, put over the gas cap. So there were 2 per unit holding the gas from spraying over everybody. And they shut the power off in the back of the aircraft. They said, don't move until we land. When we landed, they told us to get off the aircraft.
Quick.
Once you hit the ground, run. And we all got out the aircraft, took off, and I never saw so many fire trucks in one place at one time. It was just amazing.
Gotcha.
And so we got out of there, and we were fine. No mishaps, but it could have been. And since the tanker's full of fuel too, that would have been one big explosion.
Right. Jeez.
So,
lucky you.
yes.
Okay, so you landed in Thailand, right? After all of that?
Yes.
Okay.
We landed in
I wanted to
Thailand.
make sure we were in the same place. To that experience.
We landed in another place first, and then we jumped over. I think we might have been in Vietnam where we landed. I don't know where we landed.
Okay.
Philippines and someplace else, and then we made it into Thailand.
Okay.
And
So how long were you in Thailand?
1 year.
And what was that job again?
Electronic countermeasures.
All right, and how did it go?
Great.
How was the tour? How were the people? How was the food?
It was, well, my shop was right on the end of the runway, down where actually they stored the Agent Orange material. But when my shop, we had a Thai officer, captain, he lived right there in a little shack, and he had the Thai restaurant.
Oh.
So, and his family, that was open 24/7. So I usually worked the midnight shift, 8 at night till 8 in the morning, because I couldn't handle the heat in the daytime. So
How hot would it get?
I have no idea. I would give myself 5 minutes by the time I entered the aircraft before I started to wring with sweat.
Right.
So I know it was well over 100 degrees.
Woo.
And inside the aircraft, it was ridiculous.
What time of year was that?
That was, I think I got there in July. I got there.
Okay.
In July
And you were there for a year?
to August the following year.
The following year. So I'm curious, was there a cool time of year? Like December, January?
The only cool time is the rainy season.
And when was that?
That was July, I think it was July and August, September. And
Oh, the same time it was super hot.
And all I wore was my shorts. There was no reason to wear a shirt because you have to wring it out, put it back on, and it rained constantly, 24/7. And they talk about the rainy season here in Florida. They haven't seen.
They don't know what that is.
Yeah,
Okay.
they don't know what that is.
Hopefully nobody drowned.
No.
Good. Okay. I got it. The monsoon, right? Was
Yes,
it
absolutely.
monsoon?
Monsoon season.
Okay. So it sounded like your experience with the people on the economy, the native
Yes,
Thai people were
yes,
positive.
They were. Well, they always wanted us to buy things off of them.
Right.
I think their monetary was a baht, which was a nickel, and Mama San, we had our, I guess it was our agreement with the Thai. We had to hire one Thai person per 7 or 9 GIs. So we had Mama San that came into our barracks and did all of our cleaning, did our uniforms, spit shine our shoes. They did everything. All we did was go in, jump in bed, get your hour of sleep, back to work.
Hour?
Pardon me?
An hour?
Yeah, no, hours.
Hours.
Couple
Okay,
hours.
all right.
We worked 12 I worked 12, 14, 16 hours a day, no days off.
Wow.
And my boss did give me one day off. He told me, he says, you take tomorrow off, don't tell the other guys. I said, great, thank you. So I go back to the barracks. I took a nap and I thought, well, I'm going to get up, go downtown, because we had a bowling alley and they had the biggest hamburgers and French fries. And I thought, I'm going to get me one of those. I'll wake up, I'm taking my shower. My buddy goes, where are you going? I said, I'm going downtown to the bowling alley, get my hamburger. He said, no, you got to go to work today. I said, no, I don't. Gave me the day off. He said, no, that was yesterday. You slept straight through it.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Had you slept right through it?
Slept straight through
Oh
it.
my God, you were exhausted.
So I'm going, now I got to go to work and I have to eat the Thai food. The Thai food was excellent. I really enjoyed that. And that was nice because I could leave. I usually ate at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I just went right across the street to the Thai restaurant, woke up the Thais, and I walk in and go, make this noise, and they had a lizard called chinchuk, and that's the noise that it would make, and they called me chinchuk all the time. So when I went in to make the noise, they came out. The little girl, she'd come out, she goes, oh, Alan here. So they'd start my meal.
Right. Was that your only day off for the whole year?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yes.
Incredible. All right, so were there any casualties or injuries during that year that you spent in Thailand?
Yes, we had one guy. He worked for the MMS. I think it's the MMS, the one that worked on the ejection seats. He went inside to work on the ejection seat, and he went through the canopy and hit the hangar roof, and he was dead when he landed on the wing.
What did he touch to make him
He
eject?
must have. I almost did it once. I had screwdriver. You're not supposed to carry tools in your pockets, but I had to change something once, and I got in the seat, and my screwdriver went through the ejection handle, and I went to get up, and I thought it got caught. Usually, you have to pull them all the way up. So
Right.
he must have done something, because I heard he was facing the back of the seat, and he was working on I think it was an F4 or F105, and those have rockets on them. So he went through the canopy and everything.
Wow.
And that's bad news.
Incredible.
And so you have to pay attention, because it's stuff that doesn't forgive you.
Right.
And you got to pay attention exactly what's going on, and it's just amazing that there weren't more casualties. But I guess that being what do you want to call it, unintelligent, you only get to do it once.
Right. I understand.
So,
The year that you spent, or any other time while you were in the military, was there any difficulty with you staying in touch with your family?
little bit, because I had to write. We didn't have cell phones or anything back then, so
Right.
we had to do the writing. So I would have to write. They would get usually communication with me once a month. And
So-
during the war, it was tough, because we didn't have we had no community. I think I did call home once, but I remember I had to go to a payphone. I can't remember how it happened, but it was difficult communicating. Yes.
Were you ever in combat?
No.
Okay. All right.
Actually, our base got attacked in Thailand twice, but I wasn't in combat. But I mean, I didn't do that type of thing.
Okay.
Actually, we were called to go to our workstation to get all of our secret stuff and get ready to destroy it all.
Okay.
And actually on Guam, no, it was in Thailand. We did have a EB-66s, which I worked on. We did have it crash right off the base. Made him make another turn, come back in, and when he came over, he flipped upside down. They ejected down through the house, and that plane was gone. And we had the equipment. They brought all of our equipment back on a tractor trailer bed, flatbed.
Right.
They told us we had to go out there. They said, "You want to get rid of your frustrations? Here's a couple huge sledgehammers. Go out and bust all the equipment up." So that's what we got to do.
Wow. Were there any casualties in that crash?
Yeah, they all died.
How many were there?
3.
Gee,
There's pilot, co-pilot, and the electronic warfare officer. And that airplane, it was a bomber actually, but it was all loaded up with electronic gear. There was nothing in there. The only guns on it was the pilot, the 3 crewmen. They had a pistol. That's it. They had no. Their job was to fly in, jam everything up so everybody else can get in and get back out without getting shot down.
Okay. And it backfired, so to speak.
No, they did fine with their job. They just didn't make it landing. They should have never make them go back around again to land. They should have landed the first time.
First time.
But there might have been something, I don't know the particulars. They
Right.
might have been coming down too fast or something, so they made them go back around, and they didn't make it.
Was where you were stationed, did you see casualties from servicemen from the Vietnam War engagement?
No, we didn't have anything. We didn't have anything at the bases.
Now, you said your base was attacked a couple of times?
Yes, twice in
And
Thailand.
what did that entail?
Well,
What was
the
the
people
attack?
from Cambodia came on the outskirts, and I guess all of our perimeter guards took care of them. They said they killed both of them. There were two people on both occasions. They're trying to get onto the base, and what I heard, they're trying to get onto the base where my airplanes were, because they could care less about the fighters and everything else. They were worried about ours because ours kept them from seeing all the other airplanes.
So they knew what you were doing there?
Yeah, they knew what we were doing there.
Wow. How do you think they found out what you were doing?
Sometimes the people that worked on the base, I think, were not actually Thai. Because we can't tell the difference.
Right.
They're all short. And we have no idea what language they're speaking. And so that happens.
Gotcha.
And that's what I figured happened. And you know how that goes. Somebody says, I'll give you 10 baht. Wow, buck.
Right.
Or 50 cents. I'll see what I can find out.
Exactly.
And so
Okay. All right, so...
war is tough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. War is hell. Yeah, I said it for you.
Yep.
So, at the end of that tour, so where was your next duty station?
From Thailand,
Yeah.
I got discharged because I had less than 6 months left.
Okay. All right.
Anything under, if you have less than 6 months left when you're coming back from overseas, it costs them more money than what it's worth to reassign you, get all the equipment over there. So they just,
You couldn't re-enlist?
I could have.
But, okay. All right. Gotcha. So, when you, where did they discharge you? There, or when you got back
As
stateside?
soon as I got stateside.
Where'd you land?
That was, I landed in San Francisco, but they took me to bus to, I can't remember the Air Force Base. Clark is in, I can't remember. It's on my DD-250. I can't remember exactly what.
Okay.
I think I have it written down there
All right.
somewhere. Where it was
So, so you stayed at this base.
at. I just went there, and I think I stayed overnight and went in there. And they asked me, "Do you remember all the stuff that you learned in the Air Force?" I said, "Yes." They said, "You forgot it." I said, "Forgot what?" She said, "Sign here." And I was done. So. There's a female colonel. I think she was pretty sharp.
Okay.
She said, "All the secret stuff you had, you know?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You've just now forgotten." I said, "Forgot what?"
Right answer.
She said,
So what did you do when you got out of the military?
I came home. I was married at the time, so I came home and got a job with
Where's home again?
Uniontown, Pennsylvania.
Gotcha.
So I got a job with a friend of my wife's dad, worked for a barge company, so I got hired with a barge company. And
Doing what?
I was a fourth class machine helper.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up 1 year and 3 months later, I was a boss.
Okay.
And because those guys, they didn't know anything about You know, I was helping a guy that couldn't read a tape measure.
Wow.
And he asked me, he said, could you measure this, make sure it's the right dimension? I said, yeah. He said, how long is it? I said, well, 54 inches and 4 of those little black hickeys. So,
Okay.
not being smart, but I just, you know, because I figured if he doesn't know how long it is, those 4 little black hickeys are going to tell him how many inches and, you know,
Right.
and quarters it is.
Okay.
So,
So how long did you stay with that company?
I stayed with them for about almost 5 years.
Okay. All right.
And then they had
How old were you by that time?
oh, probably about 26, 27, something like that.
Okay. When you got out of the service, were you like 23?
Yes.
Uh-huh. And I saw you were E4
Yes.
when you separated. Okay.
Actually, how I got my E4,
Mhm.
I kept taking my test and I couldn't pass the test for my E4. And I took the test for like 8 months. And finally they took me in and they let me see the base commander. And he said, you seem to be having a problem here. I said, yes, I can't. I take the test, and when I read the test, I said, it has nothing to do with what my books, you know, I've studied my books, and it doesn't make any sense.
Mhm.
So he said, do you have your books with you? I said, yes, I do. May I take a look at them? So I gave him my books. He goes, we apologize so much. I said, why? He says, those are not for you. That's for the electronic warfare officer. You're the repairman. He says, I apologize. And the guy my boss, senior master sergeant, he says, Alan just did a task on the B-52, and he came out highly qualified for that. He says, ripped up the paper, says, give him his stripe.
Right.
So I won mine by performance versus taking the test.
Were you required at that time to do reserve duty after that?
It was reserve but inactive.
Inactive.
2 years.
Got you. Okay. All right. Okay, so now you went on and had one job, and then went to another job, became one of the supervisors, boss.
Yes.
Okay. And so you only stayed at that job for 5 years?
Yes, 5 years. I usually like the 5-year deal because once they suck all your goodness out of you, they want to boot you out or pay you less money anyway. So
Okay, so what did you do after that?
I went to it was called Contravis Gertz. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of
The
that.
what?
Contravis Gertz Corporation.
No. Where, in Pennsylvania?
It was in Pennsylvania, towards Pittsburgh area.
Okay.
And it was, I wrote a resume and I sent it in to them, and they had me come in for an interview, and they gave me a job as, I was a production scheduler, okay. And I started with the company, and I was impressed because this company is the only company in the world that built what they built. Okay, they built gyros, they built the test equipment for all of the aircraft, the test equipment for they built centrifuges, they built some stuff I don't even know half the stuff that they built. And once I got the job there, I figured I was going to be there for life, because everybody that was there, they've been there for like 20 years.
Really?
And we had contracts through the Air Force, the Army. We had contracts for all the government.
Okay.
They were going to build a aircraft. I think it was a C-130, and they were going to put a what do you call it, a telescope inside of it and open up the top of the aircraft so they could fly up where there's no disturbances, and they could I forget what they look at what they want to look at. And so then they canceled that contract, so that was what they put me in another division there called contracts.
Right.
And I did all the fine reading print of all the government contracts that we had on there.
Was this like you're saying things to look, was this like an aerial telescope or something? Or?
Yes, it was a telescope, but they could look out at other planets.
Oh, really?
Yes. They built the world's largest one-piece telescope, and it's down in Maui right now.
Huh.
And then we had a new CEO come in and totally changed the whole company, and then people were they were getting rid of people that had over 10 years there because they
Wow.
did not want to pay a pension.
Right.
So the company went straight down to tubes, and they fired one of the guys that invented a piece of equipment there. They fired him because they said, you make too much money. So they got rid of him. He went out and started his own business, form, fit, and function, the exact same thing, called it a different thing, and he
Right.
sold it. They lost that division. So it was just totally destroyed the company. And they laid my wife off. She had 23 years there, and they laid her off.
Oh.
So they were getting down, and they were getting down to me.
She couldn't retire
No,
and get a pension?
no, she was too young. And so we were.
Unbelievable.
It was tough. It was the CEO. He was an accountant. Came from the headquarters in Switzerland. He came in and thought he was going to run the place, and he destroyed everything. Everything that we built was just. I mean, we built stuff that nobody else in the world can build. We had engineers there that had doctorate degrees in every kind of field. I had to go into some of the meetings and I couldn't understand what they were talking about.
Right.
I said, these guys are unbelievable what they can do. They built laser trackers, and it was just amazing some of the stuff that they did.
Uh-huh.
And I wish the company would have been, because I would have been retired from there.
I understand.
And when I left there, my boss called me in her office. She said, you're making too much money, we've got to lower your salary. So I fought them for about a year and a half. They called me in the office for lowering your salary. I said, nah, you can lower it. Don't worry about it. I quit. She sat back in her chair and she started crying. I said, what's the matter? You can't quit. Yes, I can. So I was one of the few that got to quit instead of getting booted out.
Right.
And then I went to work for the U.S. Postal Service.
Oh, okay. All right. Where was it? In Pennsylvania?
Yes, and that's where I retired.
How many years did you do at the post office?
Actually, I got to use my military time, so I had 22 years.
Wow. All right.
So,
Cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Did you? The post office?
Yes.
What were you working inside, outside?
I started out inside initially. Then I said I don't like working indoors. I like the outside. So I got to be a city letter carrier. So I walked last route I had was 14 miles a day, and 6 days a week.
Okay. And so, in what city were you in?
Uniontown.
Uniontown.
No, not Uniontown. I was in
Okay.
Actually, it was in North Huntington, Pennsylvania, which
Okay.
is about 50 miles south, north of Uniontown, closer to Pittsburgh.
Okay. While you were in the service, did you win or earn, or were you awarded any medals or citations?
Yes, I think I have listed Vietnam Service Medal and the Republican Vietnam Service Medal because we supported the Vietnam War. Okay.
Gotcha.
And I have the Good Conduct Medal and the regular medals that you get, just standard ones if you signed up and you got in. No, nothing really special except for the Vietnam medals and my third stripe.
Okay. All right.
And I did do some interesting things in the Air Force when I was in, because when I learned about the equipment, I learned about the entire system. Okay, and a lot of times I was very good at repairing things.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, they called me into the tower a couple times to help because we had a B-52 fly, and he was 400 miles out from Guam, and they called up and they said, the scope doesn't work. We need you to get up in the tower and talk to the guy, the warfare officer. I said, okay. So they took me up to the tower. I go up the tower. He calls in and he says, my scope doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. He gave me the description as to what it was and what it didn't work. And I said, okay, he said, we have radio silence right now. We'll call you right back. So here, we had 2 Russian trawlers on the end of both ends of Guam. Okay, They were counting the B-52s that are taking off. We had 3 B-52s take off an hour, every hour, 24/7. And so when they broke radio contact, I'm getting out of the tower, I'm walking down the steps. The guy said, where are you going? He said, he's calling you back. I said, he'll have it fixed by the time he calls back. He said, why? He said, I said he forgot to push in the circuit breakers above him on the panel. So he calls back, okay, scope's fixed. And I said, here, you have an electronic warfare officer. If he's followed his policy, the traces, the reason why that scope didn't work, he didn't turn into three-phase circuit breaker above his panel.
Right.
So it was, and I got called out on another one. B-52 was ready to take off, and they had troubles. All their scope, we have a scope inside the aircraft. I think the electronic warfare officer had one, and the gunner had one. And what it did, it had traces that came out indicating when the heat-sinking missiles coming out after them. And the longer the strobe got, the closer it was. When the strobe bent over, you hit the ejection seat because it's right next to you. So the scope wasn't working. The system wasn't working. So we had guys out there, all of my bosses were out there, and they called me up. Can you tell me what's wrong with this? I said, yeah, I'll find out in a second. So I went to the electronic warfare officer and I said, did you guys have a power surge? He said, yes, we did. I said, go get 6 preamps. And my boss says, what are you going to get 6 preamps for? Because there's a little diode in that preamp, okay? If there's a power surge, it blows that thing out so it blows out all 6 preamps, so now you don't get any of your traces because those are all 6. So we had to put 6 preamps, 2 in the nose, 2 in the wing, 2 in the tail, fixed the problem. He said, how'd you know that? I said, how come you didn't know that? I mean, it's just, when you go, he went through the same school that I did.
Right.
And they told you in the school that preamp is very, very fragile. You get a little bit of a power surge, blows the diode out and wipes out the whole system.
Wow.
So that's why some of those things helped me out in my career field.
Gotcha. Okay. Through the military, how was the food? Was the food decent or?
I was in the Air Force.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Did you feel a lot of pressure and stress while you were in the military?
Not really as far as pressure. I went after everything. I was pretty much a black and white guy. If you have something wrong, go fix it. You're done. Okay.
Right.
So a lot of people, they go, well, I don't know how to do that. Just 90% of my problems you could see what the problems were. So I just wanted to, I didn't. No stress for me. Very little.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Except for when we had, they call them red balls, except when he's within an hour of taking off, you have to. But we solved all the problems that we had.
How did you get along with officers and your peers in general?
Officers, we had problems overseas with the officers because we had second lieutenants come in. They tell you, where's your hat? What's this? We're not allowed to wear hats, first of all. Because the hat, the little button on the hat goes through the engine. They have to replace the engine.
Right, wow.
So we weren't allowed to wear hats, and loose clothing, there's a lot of that stuff. And we would walk back to the barracks, and, we just told them, keep on going. That stuff was for back in the States, just not in the war zone.
Right, yeah.
And sometimes they couldn't get that.
Yeah, I understand. Did you maintain any of your camaraderie, friendships from the military?
No, actually, all of my buddies were. I did have a buddy from New York came to see me once, but I have not heard from him. And I started looking on the line when I heard about this stuff, and I'm trying to find, and I can't find him in New York. Binghamton, New York. He was a weightlifter and what have you. Him and I palled around a couple times. I was in Guam and in Thailand with him, which was unusual.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Did you use your GI Bill for your education or buy a home or anything?
No, actually, I just used my my military for buying this house here. That's the first time I used it.
Really? Okay. All right.
I was so impressed with it, I could kick myself for not doing it prior to that.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, just a few more questions. Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general? And another part of that is for young people, for kids that are in high school or college. Do you have any recommendations for them going about, their future? Maybe joining the military or?
Yes, I do, and I'll tell you, and I'll give an example why in a minute. Anyways, I highly recommend any of the kids in school, grade school, whatever, coming up. I highly recommend you going into the military prior to going any jobs if you can. And it was amazing training. You know, you become a person, a real man, if you will, or a real woman, if you will, as soon as you come out of basic training. An incident that I had in basic training, I remember the TI called me out of rank once, and we're at 4 o'clock in the morning out we were in Texas, and it was January. It was freezing. All we had was just our jackets. We're out there standing, waiting for us to march off to Chala, and the TI called me out of rank. He goes, "Cropp, get out of here." So I go up, and normally we're nose to nose. He says, "How come you are much more of a man than anybody else in here?" I said, "Sir, I was raised that way, sir." He said, "Don't you breathe a word of this. Get back in rank." "Sir, yes, sir." Back in the rank I went. And I said, I was brought up pretty decent, I think, and no lying, no cheating, no nothing. You know, walk down the straight line, you stay out of a heck of a lot of trouble. And I think that that's one thing that helped me through the service. Okay. And having the right mindset before you even get into the service. And nowadays these kids are running, you know, they don't know what reality is. And I think that it's a good thing that kids should think about going into there initially. And they'll go up a lot faster, and when they come out, they have a lot more respect. Because a lot of these people that have all of these little kids and children and young kids, young adults, have never been to another country. Once you go to another country and find out how they live, you'll find out you have it made here, buddy.
There you go. Last question. Thank you. How did your service and experiences affect your life?
It made me grow up in a hurry, I can tell you that. And I learned about traveling a little bit, and I enjoy traveling and seeing sights. And that's one thing that I never did when I was a kid. I think we went on like 3-day weekends most of the time. And incidentally, when I was in the service, I think I was just got into Wright-Patterson Air Force Base out of basic training, and my dad was killed at work.
Oh.
And so here I am in the military, and he gets killed at work, and I had to go home for the funeral there. And that was kind of, I really didn't get to know my dad, didn't get to talk about his military experience versus mine. He was in the Army Air Corps, and he worked on the Enola Gay, which dropped the nuclear bomb. Mm-hmm. He was a sheet metal worker, and that's all I know or knew. And I said, I wished I would have had my time, you know, to find out what he did, all about it. So, but those days are gone, and never get to find that out. And,
sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And do you feel like there's anything else that you haven't shared with us that you'd like to share?
Not to my knowledge. I think I told you just about everything that happened in the military,
okay.
and everything that I had was positive. I didn't have anything negative, and I wish, you know, and I wish that some of my fellow service members got out without any problems, and I know there's lots of them have more problems than I do. So okay. I wish everybody good luck in the future, and hope you guys support the military.
There you go.
They need them.
I want to thank you for a great interview, and I also want to thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
You have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh.